Have you ever wondered if you have to prove yourself more than others simply because you're different from them? Imagine this. You've built an empire from nothing, but instead of being judged by your talent, you constantly have to explain why you deserve to be where you are. When everyone around you only sees you as an outsider, can you stand firm and prove yourself? Today's story will make you rethink fairness, respect, and how we treat one another. Share your thoughts below this video, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss other inspiring stories. The studio fell silent as the lights came on, shining on David Young, the CEO of Sentinel Dynamics, on the set of Natalie Robinson. He walked in with a calm demeanor, but inside he couldn't shake a simmering tension. This wasn't going to be an ordinary interview. Natalie Robinson, one of the sharpest hosts in the industry, was waiting for him with a set of carefully crafted questions. As soon as the cameras started rolling, Natalie didn't hesitate. She went straight for what she believed was his weak spot, something that could shake the audience's confidence in him. David, everyone knows you've built a billion-dollar tech empire, but here's what many people wonder. Is your success truly built on leadership and creativity, or is it simply because you're a diverse face in a tech industry that hasn't always been welcoming to people like you? The sharp question made the studio air grow heavy. It wasn't just a question, it was an unspoken judgment. David furrowed his brow slightly but didn't rush to respond. He understood that this wasn't just an interview. Natalie's question wasn't just doubting his talent. It was a punch to the respect he had fought so hard to earn in an industry that constantly judged people by appearances. For the first time, a wave of regret and frustration rose inside him. But then hope surged back. He hadn't come here to justify his success. He came to affirm the value he had built with sweat and tears. In that moment, he realized that no matter how much the world doubted him, he would stand firm. But could he turn the tables in this interview? The answer would soon be revealed. David Young sat across from Natalie Robinson, feeling the tension hanging in the air. Her sharp questions were like bullets. Each one aimed at what she thought would make him falter. But instead of responding quickly, David held his silence. Every second that passed was both a challenge and an opportunity to carefully consider his reply. So, David, are you saying your success has nothing to do with diversity in this tech industry? Natalie asked, her tone filled with skepticism. A flicker of regret crossed David's mind as he thought back on all the barriers he had faced to get here. Closed doors, doubtful looks. He knew this wasn't a question about his ability, it was about what he represented. But instead of feeling attacked, he saw this as an opportunity, a moment to show that his success wasn't about luck or appearances, but about innovation and relentless effort. With a soft smile and a steady voice, David answered, "Diversity is definitely important, but I believe success in technology doesn't come from being diverse. It comes from the ability to innovate. I didn't build my company based on what I had. I built it on what I could create." His answer was like a plot twist, breaking every expectation. David didn't just answer the question, he flipped the entire conversation. His words were quiet but powerful, making everyone in the room hold their breath. No one could deny his strength and vision. In that moment, people stopped seeing him as just a man from a minority group. They saw him as a true leader, someone capable of changing the industry. Looking into Natalie's eyes, David could sense the shift, even if she didn't want to admit it. The question about diversity was now just a side story. The real topic people needed to talk about was the very essence of success. As the tension in the studio grew heavier, Natalie shifted the direction of the interview with a sharp, strategic question. She stared straight at David, and as if trying to push him to the edge of control, she asked, "David, where do you come from? You're not part of the elite group in the tech industry. You don't have powerful family connections, nor do you hold an Ivy League degree. You grew up in Baltimore, not Silicon Valley. What do you think about overcoming all those barriers?" The sudden question made the atmosphere in the studio feel even heavier, and a wave of regret briefly rose in David's heart. Natalie's words felt like scratching old wounds, reminding him of the days he had to fight against people who didn't believe in his abilities just because of his background and family circumstances. He could feel the eyes of the entire studio focused on him, an invisible judgment he had faced throughout his career. Yet instead of letting that negativity touch him, a new sense of hope rose in David's heart. He refused to let himself be pushed into a weak position. With an unusual calm, he replied, "Where I come from does not define who I am. I don't need to come from a connected family or hold prestigious degrees. I built my success not because of what I had, but because I knew what I wanted, and I worked hard to get it." David's words landed like a surprising twist. He didn't just push back against Natalie's doubts. He proved that ability and determination were what truly mattered. The audience's reaction became palpable. They couldn't help but feel connected to his words. David's story of effort, struggle, and hope made Natalie's questions seem small, like unnecessary criticisms. The doubts about his background slowly faded in the light of truth. David felt a powerful surge of energy flow through him as he faced Natalie's next question. She was still trying to corner him, searching for a way to drag him into a conversation about the barriers he had overcome, to force him to justify himself once again. But David refused to fall into that trap. He took a light breath, his eyes looking straight into the camera, as if he were speaking to the world, not just Natalie. "No, I never use my circumstances as an excuse," he said, his voice calm but full of resolve. "I know I didn't have industry connections or fancy degrees, but I had incredible teachers and mentors who helped me see the potential in myself when no one else did." He let a moment of silence pass, building tension in the air, drawing every gaze in the studio toward him. Those who had once dismissed his efforts were now forced to face an undeniable truth. David continued, "I had to work twice as hard, be twice as persistent, because I knew no one would hand me any privilege. But the opportunities I did get, I took full advantage of them. That wasn't luck. That was relentless effort." David's response was another powerful twist, breaking every assumption Natalie and the audience might have had. He didn't just affirm his own effort. He reminded everyone that real success doesn't come from privilege, but from determination and the ability to overcome challenges. The feeling of tension gave way to hope, as David proved that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things if they never give up. The audience couldn't help but feel the love and connection in his story. David's response didn't just earn respect. It sparked a wave of inspiration, reminding everyone that opportunity and success are not easy to come by. But if you believe in yourself and refuse to quit, you can always reach your goal. The tension in the studio seemed to build with every question Natalie asked. She didn't let up, continuing to attack the points she believed were the keys to David Young's success. "So, David, what do you think about the criticism regarding your leadership style? Some people say you're not really a true leader, just someone who knows how to leverage diversity to gain an advantage." Natalie's sharp question struck like lightning, challenging all the efforts David had fought for. David didn't shy away, but he felt a quiet regret inside. Being judged for things beyond his control, for external factors, was always a challenge he had to face. But in this moment, he didn't let it weaken his resolve. He looked straight at Natalie, sensing the anticipation from the audience, and responded with calm yet undeniable confidence. "Diversity is something I'm proud of, but I didn't build my company to follow a trend. I built it on the real value of innovation and the ability to create outstanding solutions." Those words landed like another unexpected twist. It wasn't an excuse or a defense. It was a strong declaration that he would never let outside judgments distract him from his mission. Leadership is not about giving orders. It's about creating an environment where people can grow, push each other, and innovate together. David continued, his heart filled with hope. His words didn't just ease the tension in the studio. They illuminated a powerful message about respect and responsibility. Natalie's questions were no longer challenges. They became opportunities for David to prove that, despite criticism or doubt, he would stand firm. The entire studio quieted. A deep connection began to form, not with the accusations, but with the values David embodied. The tension in the air seemed to grow thicker by the second. Natalie refused to let up, continuing to zero in on David's leadership style. She pressed on, trying to expose the weaknesses she believed would make him falter. "So, David, Do you truly believe that your company's success isn't due to lucky factors like diversity in the industry, but rather because of the real value your company brings? Natalie's question made the atmosphere in the room even heavier. Everyone was listening intently. David could feel the nervous energy within him, but he refused to let it show. He looked straight into Natalie's eyes, took a deep breath, and let calm wash over him. This was the moment to answer with strength. My success didn't come from luck or any advantage linked to diversity, he said, his voice steady but firm. My company was built on innovation and a commitment to delivering real value. We don't just offer products, we protect the critical infrastructure that society depends on every single day. It was an unexpected twist. David didn't dodge the question. He countered it directly with sharp, undeniable reasoning. He continued, we safeguard AI systems, critical infrastructure, and technologies that protect the data of millions of people. Without them, this world would be vulnerable and could easily be broken apart. That's why I built this company, to make sure these products are delivered safely and effectively. David's words felt like a wave washing away all lingering doubt. He wasn't just proving that he didn't rely on privilege or special treatment. He was making clear the noble mission his company was dedicated to. The hope and passion he carried for his work didn't just help him stand strong. They created a powerful connection with the audience. At that moment, no one could deny the value David brought. His story was no longer just about personal success. It was about responsibility and a greater mission for society. David could feel the tension sharpen as Natalie's next question shifted away from his abilities and towards something deeper. Bias. David, it's easy to say your success is built on hard work, but hasn't diversity played an important role in how the tech industry has perceived you? Natalie asked, her gaze sharp, as if betting that bias was something he couldn't deny. Her question stirred a sense of regret in David. He was all too familiar with being judged by factors outside of his control, but this time, he couldn't remain silent. Natalie, David began, his voice low but strong, these questions aren't about my ability. They're not about what I've built. They're about the assumptions that surround me. He paused, locking eyes with her, then continued. If I were Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, would the questions be the same? Were they ever doubted for their ability to lead? His words landed like a shocking twist, completely flipping the narrative. He didn't just push back against the bias. He forced the entire audience into a moment of reflection. David wasn't just participating in an interview. He was confronting the prejudices he'd faced his entire life. If I were judged solely on what I've done, I believe my story would look very different. But what matters is that I've never given up, no matter who doubted me. With those words, David didn't just answer a question. He forged a powerful connection with the audience. The studio fell silent. Everyone could feel the weight of what he had just revealed. His story wasn't just about success. It was about fighting to break through barriers and make a difference. The tension in the studio peaked as Natalie's next question once again targeted the bias David had encountered throughout his career. She continued to push, trying to corner him into defending achievements she implied were not fully earned. But this time, David didn't dodge. He felt regret rising inside, thinking back to all the times he'd had to prove himself. Not because of his ability, but because of irrational doubt from those around him. With a soft smile, David refused to play defense. Natalie, he began, his voice gentle but unwavering, if I weren't who people think I am, would these questions even be asked? He looked directly into her eyes and calmly posed the question back. If I were someone else, would anyone in this room be questioning my success in this way? That question landed like an unexpected twist. No one anticipated that David, instead of answering Natalie's question, would turn it around and force everyone to think about what was really happening. The entire studio fell silent. The tension rippled through the room. The audience began to react, their eyes shifting quietly from Natalie to David, sensing the shift in the room's energy. David's words didn't just prompt quiet thought. They sparked a wave of strong support from the audience. They no longer saw just a victorious CEO, but a human being, resilient and unwavering in the face of every challenge, refusing to let prejudice or bias diminish his value. This wasn't just an interview anymore. It had become a moment for everyone to realize that success isn't about what you're given. It's about what you fought for to achieve. The room fell silent, the air thicker than ever. Natalie could feel the shift, as if the control had slipped from her grasp. The questions she had carefully crafted no longer served their purpose. Instead, each response from David left her more unsettled. The sharp questions which she thought would force him into defense were now backfiring. Slowly, she began to realize that it was she who was being challenged. David, with incredible calm, continued to deliver sharp, thoughtful rebuttals. "Your question isn't really about me," he said, his voice soft but resolute. "It's about how people choose to perceive and judge someone like me. And that's a problem we will never solve if we don't choose to see things with fairness." The entire studio seemed to hold its breath as those words left his mouth. The audience reacted. Scattered applause began to echo, and the atmosphere shifted. Those who had been silent now exchanged glances and nodded, as if they had just recognized something deeper. They weren't just supporting David for his success, but for the courage he showed in confronting unfair questions head-on. Natalie glanced around, the loss of control visible on her face. She hadn't anticipated this turn of events. The questions she had so carefully prepared were now forcing her to confront truths she hadn't considered. She faltered, unsure whether to press on or stop, while the wave of support for David grew stronger by the second. The audience had found something to connect with, not just his accomplishments, but who he was, a person who refused to be defined or judged by his differences. The entire room now felt like a united front, where prejudice and bias had no place. Everyone rallied behind David, not just because he was a successful CEO, but because he faced every challenge with integrity and perseverance. When the studio lights dimmed and the cameras stopped rolling, a strange silence filled the room. Natalie watched as David walked out with undeniable confidence. A mix of anxiety and regret swelled in her chest. The interview, which she thought would be a clear victory, had taken a turn she hadn't expected. Instead of cornering David, she found herself facing questions about her own unconscious bias and the unfairness she had unwittingly perpetuated. As the show ended and the interview clip began to spread across social media, no one could have predicted the wave it would create. Industry leaders, from top executives to other CEOs, quickly shared and discussed the interview. Comments poured in, praising David for his calmness, determination, and courage in standing up against the biases he'd faced. Members of the public, people who had once been judged for their appearance or background, found hope in David's story. This isn't just a story about a CEO. It's about a man fighting to be recognized for what he's done, not what he has, read one standout tweet. Conversations about leadership, bias, and success quickly became hot topics everyone couldn't ignore. It wasn't just industry professionals. Everyday people began to share their feelings as well. They recognized the connection between David's journey and their own, a shared struggle to not let others define their worth. This growing wave of support didn't just change the conversation around leadership. It transformed how people viewed success and the unseen challenges faced by those like David. Now, people no longer saw David as just a CEO. He became a symbol of resilience and fairness. Even as the interview clip continued to go viral and support flooded in from the public and industry figures alike, David didn't feel pride or triumph, only a strange sense of calm. Praise and recognition, no matter how impressive, couldn't satisfy him. Standing in his office, looking out the window deep in thought, he reflected. He didn't need applause or validation from the crowd. What he needed was relentless commitment to his work. People can say whatever they want about me, share whatever stories they like, but the truth is, I don't live to prove anything to anyone, David thought to himself. Recognition doesn't come from interviews or viral videos. It comes from continuing to build something strong and undeniable. He wasn't interested in showmanship. He understood that true success comes from staying committed to his vision. No matter the doubt or difficulty, the regret of being judged by factors outside his control had slowly faded, replaced by a steady hope for the future. He had proven his worth, not through words but through action. The sense of connection with those following his journey felt stronger than ever. They didn't just support him for what he had achieved. They felt his sincerity and the resilience he carried every single day. I didn't build this company for titles or accolades, he thought, a small smile forming on his face as he turned back to his work. I built it to create real value. He pressed forward, steady and unwavering. In the end, after everything that happened in that interview, David stood tall and looked out at the audience, his voice both powerful and filled with empathy. The questions he faced weren't just personal challenges. They represented deeper issues society must face together. He understood that what mattered wasn't the outcome of the interview or the praise afterward, but the stories we accept without questioning. Think about the narratives we so often accept, he urged. Think about the biases we carry into every decision we make. He didn't need more praise or validation. What he wanted was for people to reflect on what truly matters. We cannot allow bias and prejudice to shape how we view leadership and success, and he continued. Real change doesn't come from one dramatic interview. It comes from changing the way we view those around us. The video of David's interview continued to spread like wildfire, and though that was never his intention, he had sparked a movement no one could deny. Viewers, from tech leaders to young people just beginning their careers, shared the video and began a new conversation. A conversation about how we truly evaluate people. Audiences didn't just see David as a CEO anymore. They saw him as someone leading change, not only in business but in how society views success and leadership. In the end, David left more than just a mark of personal success. He delivered a powerful message about fairness and what real leadership looks like. He proved that sometimes change doesn't come from a dramatic moment on camera. It starts with shifting how we see one another and how we treat people who may already be changing the world in ways we've never thought of. David's story delivered a profound lesson about perseverance, fairness, and the way we judge those around us. Success isn't the result of privilege or bias. It's built through relentless effort, innovation, and the ability to overcome the invisible barriers that society puts in place. David didn't just succeed in business. He triumphed in the fight against prejudice and the unquestioned narratives we too often accept. The most important takeaway is this: true leadership and success cannot be measured by someone's background or external factors. They must be judged by the real value a person brings. Sometimes the biggest changes begin with small shifts in how we perceive the world and how we treat those with talent and passion, regardless of where they come from. David taught us that to make real change, we don't need to wait for a big moment or an interview. We need to change how we see and treat the people around us every single day.